I just want to run slowly through the full solo manuals and how to use these manuals. So as an example, I'll use the blue Bossa full solo manual for both alto and tenor. I'll walk through it with the tenor. So in the beginning of the manual you have all these exercises, just arpeggios going up and down. Basically those exercises, like on page 3, page 4, I'll just scroll a little bit down here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so actually till page 14 are chord exercises you can practice to get the chords into your fingers. It's very important that you have the chords into your fingers, but it's not necessary to play all the exercises before you start soloing. What you can do with these chord exercises, you can take them, put a little play along on blue Bossa on, and play a solo with some of the chord exercises. So what I would do is take 1 or 2 of the chord exercises, play them, learn them really well, for example the arpeggio up and the arpeggio down, and play this around first with no timing, and then after that with timing. So changing with the bars, so every second bar I play up and every second bar I play down. Like this, I get used to playing these patterns. I could do this again with a little play along when I know the chords very well. 1, 2. Like that, and start changing with other patterns too. There's a great pattern on page 7. Or page 8. You can use all these patterns and play them in your solo. When you get further, you just pick a different pattern. So when you're playing the solo, start fooling around with these patterns and making an own solo of this. I'll take another pattern and play a little solo with these. For example, on page 11 I have the 9th chord going up from the 3rd, so from the 3rd of every chord, from the F to the E on the D minor chord. And on page 12 I have the opposite pattern going down. So if I'm playing a little solo with these 2 patterns, first I'll play this rubato. Now, let's say I've practiced this for some time. I really know this pattern great. I put on the music. The last part there was basically taking this pattern and starting to use it different places, just moving a little bit in rhythm. You'll get there, no problem. Let's go a little bit further in the manual. The next part of the manual, starting on page 15, are guide tone lines. A guide tone line is the line moving through the chords. So I'm starting, for example, taking the guide tone line on page 17, nice in the middle. It's starting on the D, going to the E on the 9th, the F, the 7th of the G minor chord. So playing this really slowly. Recognizing what notes this is in the chord. So the root in the first bar, 9th in the second bar, the 7th in the third bar on the G minor, and then again the 7th on the G minor. The root on the E half diminished. The C sharp is the third of the A7 flat 9. But playing these is a part of the chord notes. When I do this, I just have to play it enough. So adding this to the music. Underneath this, I've just put the same chord notes but with a rhythm. So adding rhythm to just this chord note, this guide tone line, is very important. So start playing around with rhythm is one of the most important things. That's what I do with all these guide tone lines. I add rhythm. So playing this with the music a lot of times, you can also hear you are getting a quite nice melodic solo through the whole form. Next step is, for example, on page 22, where I add an extra note in the chord. So I'm thinking from out one chord note in the chord, thinking the next chord note up the arpeggio. On page 22, I play this really slow first, the root and the third. Second bar, E, F, the 9th and the third. On the G minor, I continue on the F, which becomes the 7th, down. On the E half diminished, I play the root and the 7th. On the A7, I play the 3rd and the flat 9th. D minor, the C and the D, the 7th and the root. Root and the 9th. So I basically add one chord note which is closest by to the guide tone line I just played. It takes some time to really get into this, but take it really, really slowly. Underneath, I've written out what notes you can use in a solo. For example, playing this kind of rubato just to get into the sound. When I play this with music, 1, 2, 3. That was page 22. Chord notes in the solo from a certain guide tone line. I'm playing from the guide tone line, so it's very important to know what notes is closest by in the next bar. The next parts are scales. What scales am I using? Basically, from page 23, 24, 25, 26 and so on are scale exercises. So learning the scales, what scales fits these chords. And just go through these scales, but don't go through them at all. You don't need them all. So for example, playing page 23, 24, 25, that's very much enough, maybe 26 too. You have then a great overview of the scales. Don't rush the scales, start with chord notes. It's very important that you get all the chord notes first. On page 29, I'm running through the scales of the chords. So playing 1, 2, 3 patterns, so between the root and the third. So just doing this, playing this, but it takes a lot of time when you have to get used to the sound of this. So basically playing from the scale from the root to the third, from the third to the fifth, from the fifth to the seventh, from the seventh to the ninth. Just getting used to these sounds. That's on page 29 and 30. Then I start improvising with this. So start again taking a guide tone line, putting these scale parts into this guide tone line. So the guide tone line goes a straight way through, but from the guide tone line I'm playing these small scale patterns. So for example, on page 32 I have put down the chord notes which I want to play, but now I add scale between them. So on page 32 I fill in the scale I just practiced from D to A. D7, D minor 7 again on page 32. G minor. On E half diminished. A7 flat 9. D minor 7. F minor 7. And so forth. If I play this with music, it will sound like this. But don't go there too fast. Just play the notes first. You will get there. That's how I do it with music, but take it easy before you play with music, or play a much slower tempo. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope this can help you through the full solo manuals on Blue Bossa. You can also take other manuals. They are kind of built up in the same way, so ask questions. Thank you very much. Have fun, play music.